Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiridhitam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadaadatam Bhuvigrinanti Ye Bhurida Janaha. Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita ঠাকুরের অদ্ভুত উক্তি, ছোট্ট অথচ অত্যন্ত গভীর। সন্ধ্যা গায়ত্রীতে লয় হয়, গায়ত্রী আবার ওঙ্কারে লয় হয়। The profound statement made by Sri Ramakrishna at the very first meeting with M, the record of the gospel, namely, Sandhya merges into Gayatri and Gayatri merges again into Om. Sandhya is the ritualistic portion, Trisandhya, the Pratah Sandhya, which is done at the dawn when the night breaks into day, and the Sayam Sandhya, when day once again merges into the night, and the Madhyanika, when the sun is just at the top and the shadow is not seen. So whenever there is a change of phase in Prakriti, in nature, phase transition as we call it in science, there is a corresponding effect which takes place in the microcosm, which is the body and the mind. So the macrocosm-microcosm identity is a very famous scientific and philosophical, spiritual truth, because of which the ancient rishis discovered that whenever there is a phase transition in the macrocosm, the corresponding effect on the microcosm, the body and the mind takes place. Amavasya, Purnima, special tithis like Ekadashi, morning, night, and certain very special muhurtas, auspicious days, when the whole of nature takes a different form. Eclipses, grahana. Even scientifically they say the radiation at that time is not congenial to certain kinds of people. For example, pregnant woman is not allowed to come out because it will affect the fetus and so on. That means there are some cosmic changes which take place in the macrocosm and correspondingly the microcosm also gets affected. This is a Sandhya, special occasions when purification has taken place. You purify through waters, you purify through prayers, and then a purified body and mind starts chanting the Gayatri, which is a deep prayer, longing prayer for illumination. After all, the final aim of all this is to get divine illumination, to realize our true nature as the Atman and get devotion to God, whatever be the language that you use. And therefore, this idea that a pure body and a pure mind reflects the divine self within is practically carried out through the chanting of the Gayatri Mantra with great feeling, Shraddha, purity, Brahmacharya and so on. You invoke the Gayatri in your heart. Gayatri Mavahayami, Savitri Mavahayami, Saraswati Mavahayami and so on. Gayatri, Savitri, Saraswati are three names of the deity Gayatri which are mentioned. You invoke them in your heart. So in a pure heart you invoke these three, and the Gayatri awakens what we call the Dhi. The prayer is Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. May that divine being, the supreme being, who is symbolized by the sun. What is the sun? The sun is the luminous entity, the luminosity being of the nature of consciousness. It is not ordinary luminosity like the sun and the moon. It is the luminosity, the light of the Atman. It is called light because it illumines, it elevates, it removes the darkness of ignorance. So the luminosity of the Atman, which is symbolized by the sun, Varanyam Bhargaha Devasya, we meditate on that, Dhimahi. What does the sun do? The Atman or Brahman do? Nah Dhiya Prachodayat. Nah Asmakam, ours. Dhiya, the Dhis, plural of Dhi. Dhi is a special awakened state of consciousness in which the higher spiritual truths are intuited by the higher mind. Sometimes it is called also buddhi. It is not the buddhi in the ordinary parlance. We use the word buddhi in several meanings. The buddhi, which is identical with the dhi, is the higher intuitive faculty called the vijnanamaya. The manomaya is the sankalpa vikalpa atmaka. Thesis and antithesis, to do or not to do, oscillating between one position to the other, thesis and antithesis. When it becomes nischayatmika, firm, steady, focused and determined, nischaya, all doubts vanish. Gata samshaya, dridha nischaya, manasavan. About Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda writes in the Aritrika hymn, Nirbhaya, Gata samshaya, dridha nischaya, manasavan. Gata samshaya, all doubts vanish. Nischaya, you become completely determined. Your mind enters in a different phase, as it were, called the buddhi. So the manomaya enters into the vijnanamaya. Kathopanishad will say, Yached vang manasi pragya tadyached jnana atmani jnanamatmani mahatini yached tadyached shanta atmani. The whole process of meditation is very beautifully described in the Kathopanishad. All the faculties of the senses, vak means all the senses. It is representative of the senses. Vak, pani, pada, payu, upastha, pancha karmendriya, chakshukarna, nasigatmak, jikhva, shabdasparsha, ruparasagandhadi tanmatras. So these 10 senses should be merged in the mind, in the manomaya. Then the entire manomaya along with the senses, the 11 of them, should be merged into the vijnanamaya, jnana atma. And the jnanamatman should be merged into the cosmic vijnanamaya called the hiranyagarbha, and that should once again be merged into the supreme called the shanta atman, the tranquil, calm, supreme Brahman. This is the secret of sadhana, meditation. Now, the Gayatri Mantra awakens the Vijnanamaya. Dhi is the Vijnanamaya. It is called Prajna in Yoga Sutra. It is called Dhi in the Gayatri Mantra. It is called Medha in the Vedas, the Medha Suktam. It is called Buddhi Guha, Hridaya Guha, Dahara Akasha, Hridaya Akasha in Vedanta. It is also called the Anahata, Hrid Chakra in Tantra, Hrid Padma in Yoga, and Hridaya Akasha in Vedanta. It corresponds to the heart, the Vijnanamaya. And when the Kundalini awakens and reaches the heart, one sees a mysterious light, uncreated mysterious light of consciousness, and one sees the light of the Atman completely overpowering and illuminating one's entire being. Is as it were, you are bathed in some mysterious light. Just like there's total darkness everywhere, suddenly the sun appears and everything becomes bright. You are bathed in that light. Similarly, you are bathed, your body, your mind, your consciousness, your antakarana, everything is bathed in that divine light. You are, as it were, having avagahana snana. I think Sankaranti tomorrow. People take avagahana snana. People dip into the Ganges, the Ganga Sagar and various places, and purify themselves. Similarly, the entire being is saturated, as it were. Otaprota, the word is used in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, interpenetrated by, overwhelmed, illumined by the divine light of consciousness. This is accompanied by another experience, the yogis say, of the anahata dhvani, the unstruck sound, which is Om. So the Gayatri, which awakens the Dhi, leads you to this Om, Gayatri, Omkare Loihai. This is Ramakrishna's statement. For the first time you hear a mysterious, uncreated, unstruck sound, and this sound is Ekakshara Brahman called Om. This Om is called the symbol of Brahman, identical with Brahman. It can be called the Vachaka of Brahman, and Brahman is the Vachya. Vachaka means that which designates, and Vachya, that which is designated. In Bhakti language, it's called Nama and Nami. Nama is the name of God, and Nami is that object which has this name. Just like various objects have names, Brahman is the name which is Om. When you call Om, Brahman responds, did you call me? Sagada Brahman. And the higher dimension of this Om is Nirguna Brahman. Therefore, it is this symbol of Parabrahman as well as Nirguna Brahman. Yet when you consider it as a symbol, pratika, just like you have murti, image, you have picture. Similarly, you can also think of Om as a pratika or a symbol of Brahman. Or it can be talked about as the Vachaka of Brahman. Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha, Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Tasya, that Brahman, of that Brahman, Vachakaha, the designate is Om, Pranavaha. And it can be Apara Brahman, which is Saguna Brahman, and Parabrahman, which is the Nirguna Brahman. So in the Kathopanishad, Nachiketa asks this question to Yama. This is first chapter, second valli, 15th mantra. There he says, can you tell me about that for which all the tapasvis are striving, all the people observing the brahmacharya ashrama are struggling, and what is that state of consciousness? All the Vedas speak about it. Tatte padam sangrahena bravimi om ityetat. 1:2:15. Yama tells Nachiketa, Yama is the Brahma Vidya Acharya, Nachiketa is a worthy disciple. He says that state of consciousness, tatte padam, very briefly I will tell you, om ityetat. That is Om. He is explaining this further. Etadhyevaksharam brahma, etadhyevaksharam param, etadhyevaksharam gyatva, yo yadichhati tasya tat. This ekakshara, aksha is Brahman, one letter, akshara also means undecaying, immutable. It also is one letter, single letter, syllable. This is the supreme para, and knowing this ekakshara Brahman, yo yadichati tasya tat. So, para and apara Brahman, he attains whatever he wants. Param aparam va tasya tad bhavati. If he wants Parabrahman, he gets that. If he wants Aparabrahman, he gets it. Then Shankara adds beautifully, Param ched gyatavyam, aparam ched praptavyam. Yo yadichhati, a person who wants to attain Aparabrahman or Suguna Brahman or Ishvara, Ishtadevata, he goes to the Hiranyagarbhaloka and remains with his beloved Ishtadevata. The sadhakas in the Ramakrishna Sampradaya, devoted to Ramakrishna, will go to Ramakrishna Loka. Sadhakas who are devoted to Shiva will go to Kailasha and live with Shiva. Sadhakas who are devoted to Vishnu will go to Vaikuntha, and so on. Yo yadichhati, whatever a person wants, he gets that. What does he get? Tad bhavati, he becomes that. If it is apara Brahman, then he gets it, obtains it, praptavyam. Aparam ched, praptavyam. Param ched, gyatavyam. If it is apara Brahman, then you attain it. Apara Brahman is a state of attainment. You attain it, you go there. If it is Parabrahman, you don't attain Parabrahman, you know it, gyatavyam. Here, there is a very interesting statement in the Shruti Kenopanishad. He talks about two kinds of Brahman, Geya Brahman and Upasya Brahman. This is Shankara's explanation. Geya Brahman is that which is to be known, realized as one's own self. Upasya Brahman is to be worshipped as other than oneself, but extremely beloved object, as Durga, Kali, Ishtadevata, Ramakrishna, and so on, Krishna, Rama. But knowing that Ishtadevata is your own very self is a higher state of realization. So the Upanishad speaks of Brahman as identical with one's own self. This is a very interesting, important point to note. The Upanishad says, I am talking about that Brahman which is identical with yourself, and not that Brahman which is worshipped by you as other than yourself. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. We are talking about that Brahman which is one with you, your own self. Ne ididam upasate. Nedam upasate, not this Brahman which is being worshipped by you as other than yourself. So this is called Upanishadic Brahman, the Brahman expounded, explained, explicated in the Upanishad. It's called Upanishadam Brahma. This phrase is used in the Upanishads. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya is challenged by asking him to explain whether he knows the Supreme Purusha as taught in the Upanishad. Upanishadam Purusham Prachami. O Yajnavalkya, I am asking you about that Purusha which is Upanishadam Purusham. That Purusha which is realizable by the Upanishads. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate is the Upanishadam Purusha, Upanishadam Brahma. And the Shanti mantra prefixed and suffixed to Kena Upanishad. It says, Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam. Sarvam Brahma, all this is Brahman. What kind of Brahman? Upanishadam Brahma. Not any other kind of Brahma, the all-pervading, supreme, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient Brahman, which can take a form as Saguna Brahman, or it is Nirguna Brahman, which is qualityless. Ashabdamasparshamaroopamavyayam tatharasam nityamagandhavachayat anadjanantam mahataparam dhruvam nichayadan mrityumukhat pramuchyate Kathopanishad. So that which cannot be seen, which cannot be heard, which cannot be touched, which cannot be tasted, which cannot be seen by the senses, it is beyond the mind, that Supreme Brahman, which is Nirguna Brahman, yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasasaha, from where the speech comes back and the mind also turns back without being able to reach it. This Brahman is called Nirguna Brahman. Na antah pragyam na bahih pragyam na ubhayata pragyam na pragyanaganam na pragyam na apragyam adrishtam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam adrishtam avyapadeshyam ekatmapratyyasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vigneyaha. Mandukha. You can only describe it neti neti, not this, not this, not this. Ashabdam, asparsham, not sparsha. It cannot be touched, it cannot be not. It cannot be described in the iti iti because it cannot be reached by the senses. When you have realized the acme of the neti neti and the Supreme Brahman you reach, then you realize the Brahman has become everything. So Ramakrishna says, climb up the stairs to go to the roof. Then you say the stairs are not the roof, negate everything. When you reach the roof, you find that the roof is made of the same substance as the stairs, with mud, with stone, brimstone and so on. So you see that the same consciousness pervades the steps as well as the stone. The two paths are mentioned, neti neti, which is the path of jnana, and iti iti, which is the path of bhakti. All that exists is only Brahman, the path of bhakti. In the path of jnana, everything except Brahman is negated as non-existence. The only existence is Brahman. Having realized Brahman is the only existence, everything gets meaning, because when Brahman is eliminated, everything becomes non-existence or asat. Tadatmana vinirmukto asat sampadhyate. Bhagavan Bhashyakara Shankara says, commentator in the Kathopanishad Bhashya, that Atmana vinirmuktaha, if the Atman is eliminated, Atman is removed, Atman can't be removed, but if you say that Atman is not there, Sarvam asat sampadhyate, everything completely vanishes into nothingness. Tad Atmana vinirmukto asat sampadhyate. Kathopanishad says, Asti ityevopalabdhavyaha tattvabhavena chobhayoho asti ityevopalabdhasya tattvabhava prasidati. This Brahman has to be realized as Ati Asti and also as Tattva Bhava. Tattva Bhava is the Nirguna aspect, supreme. Asti is a Saguna aspect. It should be realized in both the aspects of Saguna and Nirguna. This is the complete realization, what Ramakrishna called the Vijnana Anubhuti. That's why Swami Vivekananda wrote the remarkable Aratrika hymn, Stotra and Ramakrishna. Niranjana Nararupadhara Nirguna Gunama. It is Nirguna and Saguna. Niranjana and Nararupadhara. That means it has both the aspects of Nirguna and Saguna, Para and Apara. And Om is that which represents both Nirguna Brahman, Para Brahman, and Saguna Brahman, Apara Brahman. Etadhyevaksharam Brahma, etadhyevaksharam Param, etadhyevaksharam Gyatva, yo yadichhati tasya tat. Then Nishiketa is instructed by Yama. Next shloka, 1 to 17. 17th mantra of the second valley of the first Adhyaya chapter. Etadalambanam shreshtham, etadalambanam param, etadalambanam gyatva, brahmaloke mahiyate. Etam alambanam, alambananam shreshtham, prashasyataram. Shankara's Bhashya. Etad alambanam param, aparam cha parapara brahma vishayatvat. Para and apara brahma vishaya, both of them are represented, designated by Om, and therefore it is para apara brahma vishayatvat. This pertains to both apara brahman and para brahman. You can use Om to call upon any deity, Durga, Kali, Rama, Krishna, Ramakrishna, every deity, every spiritual principle, incarnation, the mantra will have Om. Each deity has a different bija mantra, that is Tantra. In Vedanta, in Veda, Om is the only mantra. And suppose you are devoted to the Nirguna Brahman, you don't want any form, you don't want any name, you don't want any guna, nirguna, then you can chant Om to designate that also. That can be a designation of Parabrahman. Both Parabrahman and and Aparabrahman can be designated by Om. Etad alambanam gyatva brahmaloke mahiyate parasmin brahmani. So he gets great glory in the Supreme Brahman. Aparasminscha brahma bhuto bhavati upasyo bhavati ityarthaha. If it is Parabrahman, he completely gets merged in the Supreme Brahman and attains great spiritual glory. So he becomes Yashas and Kirti as a Brahmagyani. And with Apara Brahman, Brahma Bhuto Bhavati, Brahma Bhavat, Upasyo Bhavati. So Brahmavad, like Brahman, he also becomes respectful and Upasya. Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. If it is Apara Brahman which is attaining Prapti, then he is worshipped as Brahman, as an embodiment of God, just like some great saints are worshipped as God himself. And if he attains the Parabrahman, then he gets merged in Parabrahman, Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati, and becomes extraordinarily spiritually glorious. So this is the meaning which Shankara gives for Om in the Kathopanishad. So this Om is described in so many definitions, in so many ways. The Mandukya Upanishad has a special definition of Om. The whole thing is a description of Om. Om ityedidam sarvam tasyo bhavyakyanam bhutam bhavat bhavishyatiti sarvam onkara eva yachan yatrikalatidam tadapyonkara eva. First mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad. It begins by saying, Om ityedidam sarvam. All this is only Om. All this is Brahman. Second mantra says, Sarvam hetad Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma, Soyamatma Chatushpat. Mark these two mantras together. Sarvam hi etad Brahma. All this is Brahman. First mantra says Om ityadam sarvam. All sarvam is Om. And second mantra says Sarvam is Brahman. And therefore, all this is Brahman. What you call Om is Sarva, and this is I am Atma Brahma, and Brahman is this Atman. So you get a simple equation. First mantra says Om ityadam sarvam, sarvam equal to Om. Second mantra says sarvam equal to Brahma, the first half of the mantra. Second half says this Atman is Brahman. So you get Om equal to sarvam equal to Brahma equal to Atma. So you can say Om equal to sarvam, sarvam equal to Brahma, Brahman equal to Atma, Atma equal to Om. So you have four limbs of this equation. Om equal to Brahma sarvam, Om equal to Brahma, and Om equal to Atma. And therefore, Brahman equal to Atma. This is called a Mahavakya. When Ramakrishna says Gayatri merges into Om, this has such a profound meaning. It merges into Om, which could be Parabrahma as the Nirguna, or it could be Aparabrahma as Saguna. So both Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma are mentioned by Om. So Gayatri leads you to that. What is Gayatri? Gayatri is the Dhi, the awakened Buddhi or the Dhi or the Pragya or the Medha, which is the Jivatma, individual self, whose essence is Atman or Brahman, that merges into the Paramatma. The Om, which can represent the Parabrahman, Nirguna Brahman, or the Apara Brahman, which is Saguna Brahman, is all pervading Vishwamukha. Om is everywhere. The entire Veda arises from Om and it's called Vishwarupa. The Taittiriya Upanishad sings the glory of Om as follows. Yas chandasam rishabho vishwarupaha Chandobhyadhamritaat sambabhova. Yes, Chandasam Rishabha. Rishabha is the chief, supreme. Chandas is Vedas. That which is the chief of the Vedas. Rishabha is the bull, symbolically meaning the supreme, the chief. In the Gita, Bhagavan often calls Arjuna Bharata Rishabha. That means the glorious chief of the Bharata Vamsha. Bharata Chandasam Rishabha. The greatest glory and the supreme essence of Chandas, Vedas, is Om. What is that? Vishwarupaha. It is all pervading, it is infinite form. The form or the rupa of this Omkara is Vishwarupa, vast, infinite, all pervading. Yes, Chandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha. So the Gayatri mantra, which awakens the Dhi within you, which is called Medha or Pragya, the light of individual consciousness, merges into Om, which is the supreme consciousness, symbolized, designated by Om, respectively as Pratika, or Vachaka, whose two aspects of Parabrahman, Aparabrahman, Supreme Brahman and the less Supreme Brahman, Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities and Brahman without qualities. So Sandhya merges into Gayatri, you move one step, and the Gayatri Devi awakens the power of intuitive higher intelligence in you called Medha or Prajna or Dhi, which leads you once again to Om, which is both Parabrahman and Nirguna Brahman. Parabrahman, Nirguna Brahman, or Aparabrahman, Saguna Brahman. So that is the profundity of this statement. Sandhya merges into Gayatri and Gayatri merges into Om. So the Mandukya Upanishad says the Om can be analyzed into A, U and Ma. We will discuss it elaborately as far as possible. The Mandukya Upanishad is full of it. The entire Mandukya Upanishad, just 12 mantras, is devoted to Om as identical with Brahman, which is the Atman, and the four quarters of the Atman, Soyam Atma Chatushpat, and identifies the A, U, Ma of Om with Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. A is the Jagrat Avastha, U is the Swapna Avastha, and Ma is the Sushupti Avastha. Jagrat is the waking state consciousness, Swapna is the dream state consciousness, and Sushupti is the dreamless, deep sleep consciousness. And Amatras Chaturtha, the fourth letter leading to the Supreme Consciousness, Om. It does not end with Ma, but goes on to It has no separate matra, as it were, it merges into the infinite. So he says, Bhutam Bhavad Bhavishyatiti Sarvamonkara Eva. The Bhuta, the past, Bhavat, the present, Bhavishyat, the future. That means the entire gamut of time is represented by Om, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. The past, present and future. In a sense, you can map them onto respectively the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Waking state is the present state. We are here talking, discussing. In common parlance nowadays, they call it real time. Real time means now, live. It could be recorded and shown to you later, that is the past. So real time, live time is the present, this moment. This is Jagrat. Swapna is the past. That we have experienced earlier, maybe in several lives, maybe in this life. So many experiences have been gathered. They come to you in dream with sukshma samskaras, very subtle impressions, and they represent the past. In deep sleep, there is a complete absence of any knowledge. Ignorance is covering you, and the absence of any consciousness apparently. The higher consciousness is there, but the consciousness which normally we understand, that is absent there. Mandukya says, Mandukya Upanishad says, in the waking state, the consciousness is focused outside, outward focused consciousness. I am looking at all of you, I am talking to you, I am eating, drinking, moving around. All this is consciousness outward focused through the indriyas. And dream state, consciousness is focused inwardly. It's called Antahprajna. In waking state is Bahishprajna. The prajna, consciousness, is outwardly focused. And in dream state, it is inwardly focused. Antahprajna. And in deep sleep, dreamless sleep, deep sleep, consciousness is completely unfocused. Think about this carefully. Outward focused consciousness is felt, experienced in waking state. Inward focused consciousness is experienced in dream state. What is experienced in deep sleep state where there is no dreams at all? It is consciousness not moving at all. It is a mass of consciousness. It's called prajnana ghana. Antahprajna, bahishprajna, prajnana ghana. Corresponding to outwardly focused consciousness in waking state, inwardly focused consciousness in the dream state, and a mass of consciousness in the deep sleep state. Now, beyond this, there is a state which is not a state at all, in a sense, in which there is no outward focus of consciousness, there is no inward focus of consciousness, and the consciousness is not a mass of consciousness. What is it? It cannot be explained, it cannot be seen, it cannot be touched, it cannot be tasted, it cannot be realized by the senses. And this is the fourth dimension of Om. Dimension 1, waking state. Dimension 2, the dream state. Dimension 3, the deep sleep state, called Matra, dimension. And Amatra, where there is no dimension, Chaturtha, is the Turiya, the fourth. That is the state of Brahman or Atman. There is a beautiful explanation in the Mandika Upanishad. So it is Antahprajna? No. The Atman or Brahman, what is it? Is Antahprajna inward focused consciousness? No. Is it Bahishprajna, outward focused consciousness? No. Is Prajnana Ghana, mass of consciousness? No. Then what is it? Is it just Prajna? No. It is not Prajna? No. Adrishtam, it cannot be seen. Avyavaharyam, it cannot be transacted, non-transactional. It cannot be used in the world of relativity, time and space. Agrahyam, it cannot be grasped. Achintyam, it cannot be thought about. And the entire world of relativity and duality completely is quelled. Prapancha upashamam. Then what happens? Complete tranquility, shantam. And it is auspiciousness, shivam. Advaitam, it is non-dual. Chaturtham manjante, that is the fourth. That is the Atman, and that has to be realized. So Vigyayaha, that has to be realized. Na antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam, na ubhayata pragyam, na pragyana ghanam, na pragyam, na pragyam, adrishtam avyavaharyam, agrahyam alakshanam avyapadeshyam, ekatma pratyayasaram, prapanchopashamam shantam shivam, advaitam chaturtham manjante sa atma, sa vigyayaha. These are very, very profound truths of the Upanishads. In such a simple language, Sri Ramakrishna said, Gayatri merges into Om. These are dimensions of Om. Bhutam bhavad bhavishyaditi sarvam omkara eva. The past, present and future, which corresponds respectively to the dream, to the waking and deep sleep states of consciousness. All this comes under Omkara. So Omkara is not only transcendental, it is also immanent. This is a beautiful statement of the Upanishad. Don't think you have to give up all these states to reach the Omkara. In and through these states, the Omkara, the Turiya has to be attained. Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness of Atman or Brahman, is attainable through transcendence of the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti. But at the same time, we should remember that pervades, informs, interpenetrates the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti, all the three states. That I am talking to you now, and later when you go to sleep, you dream about this class, or when you don't dream at all, complete absence of all relative knowledge. During all the states, the Turiya is interpenetrating and informing you all the time. It is shining. Na drishter viparilopa vidyate avinashatvat. Consciousness does not cease to exist at any point of time. Viparilopo na vidyate avinashatvat. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There is no lopa, there is no absence of consciousness at any time, because it is indestructible. It cannot be eliminated, it can't be destroyed. It is that like just a screen which allows all the actions to take place. It is the supreme light of consciousness which is the basis, substratum, the adhisthana of everything. And we are that consciousness. Not partially but fully. Ayam Atma Brahma, it's called a Mahavakya. Mahavakyas or great sayings are those which talk about the identity of the Atman and Brahman. This Atman, which is me, which I realize through I, aham. The real nature of the I, when you investigate, probe deeply, contemplate, meditate, through tapasya, then you realize that is nothing but the Supreme Consciousness. Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva Tapo Brahmeti Taittiriya Upanishad. The father, the guru, is teaching the child, the son, the disciple, my child, through tapasya you will understand Brahman, you will realize Brahman. Tapasa Brahma Vijigyasasva Tapo Brahmeti. Tapasya itself is Brahman. Go, realize Brahman through tapasya. So what you think is I, if you investigate fully, you find it is a supreme. See, Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. There's a fine small book, Teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, compiled by Swami Brahmananda. His very dear son, Rakhal, compiled some of the teachings of Ramakrishna. It's called Sri Ramakrishna Upadesh in Bengali. It has been translated into English as the words of the master. The very first Upadesha, teaching, Ami Ke. See, we think of Ramakrishna as a great bhakta. Here, Brahmananda put this jnana as a first teaching. Who is the I? Who am I? Ami Ke. Anushandan korte korte, পেঁয়াজের খোসাটা ছাড়িয়ে 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 শেষ পর্যন্ত দেখা গেল পেঁয়াজের মধ্যে কিছুই নেই. Just like peeling of an onion layer by layer, You go on peeling and you find finally there's nothing inside the onion, there's no kernel. That means it is Shunya which is Purna. All this external coatings, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and over that the Ahankara, the Upadhis, various limiting adjuncts. Aham Sukhi, Aham Dukhi, I am happy, I am unhappy. Aham Panditaha, Aham Murkha, I am a learned man, I am a fool, I am a stupid person. Bodily, I am Aham Sthula, Aham Krishaha, I am fat, I am lean. All kinds of upadhis and imaginary superimpositions of the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya characteristics on the Atman, thinking that I am fat, I am lean, the body. I can talk for hours. I have tremendous vital force, energy, the prana. Or I am so weak, I can't speak. And I can remember many things, I can quote from here and there. My mind is very fresh and alert, the Manomaya. I have realized the light within. I am the Jivatma, the Vijnanamaya. And then the Anandamaya, I am so blissful. All these various notions belonging to the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya coatings on the Atman, superimposed on the consciousness of the Atman, I imagine I am the little self. Vedanta tells you, Advaita Vedanta, you are not this little self, you are that huge, big self, which is called Brahman. Brahman comes from Brahmadhatu to big, huge, vast. And Sukha, real joy, can come only from the infinite and not from the finite. Chandogya Upanishad. Yad bhuma vaitat sukham na alpe sukhamasti. That which is bhuma, that which is infinite, alone is joy. Alpe, in smallness, in the finitude, there is no sukha at all. Na alpe sukhamasti. These are great teachings in the Upanishads and our ancient scriptures based on the anubhuti, the well-documented experiences of our rishis. For hundreds of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of realized people have documented their experiences in this great land of spirituality. And we are fortunate to be able to access these by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, Brahmananda, and so on. Otherwise, these truths will not be known at all. And the Gospel of Ramakrishna, the latest scripture of the modern age, the universal scripture of mankind, gives this small, pithy sentence, apparently innocuous, simplistic. Shandha Gayatri te loy hoy. Gayatri abar Omkare loy hoy. Shandha merges into Gayatri. Gayatri again merges into Om. So the Om is a great mystery in spiritual life. And all the various sampradayas, the traditions in Vedanta, in Tantra, entire Hinduism, all the branches, all sects, all subsects, all the various traditions, all the cults, all of them commonly accept Om. That is why Swami Vivekananda once said, we should have a temple with only Om, nothing else. Even other religions can accept this because it's a universal symbol. It is not a religious symbol, it is not a philosophical symbol, it is not a metaphysical symbol, it is just a universal symbol depicting our daily experience in our consciousness. Everybody wakes up, have a waking consciousness. Everybody dreams, you have the dream consciousness. Everybody experiences, even though for a very small amount of time people say, the deep sleep experience. And from there to put all of them together, you can easily understand and realize through intense tapasya, austerity and penance and purity and brahmacharya, the Supreme Self, Om, which is the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti and beyond. It's only daily experience. Upanishads are not metaphysical truths, are not philosophical treatises, are not religious texts. They are simply the well-documented answers, profound answers to certain very simple questions about our daily experience. Simple. What is sleep? What is dream? What is deep sleep? When we open our eyes, how is it that we see? How is it the ears hear? How is it the tongue tastes? How is it the mind thinks? What is the power behind the mind? Is it the mind which thinks, or the power behind it? Is it the eye which sees, or something being behind this? Is the ear which hears, or some luminous being behind this? Simple questions. Kenopanishad begins with this. Not metaphysics, not philosophy. Keneshidam padati preshidam manah Kena prana prathama praiti yukta Keneshidam vachamimam vadanti Chakshusrotram kavi devo yunakti. Kena, by whom? Impelled by whom does the eyes see, the mind thinks, the ears hear? Then the answer given, the discovery, the realization of the Rishi in the Kenopanishad. It is not by the eyes that you see, but some being behind the eyes. How do you express this in words? Then a beautiful expression. It is the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. Shrotrasya srotram manaso mano yad vacho havacham savu pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshurati muchyadhiraha pretyasman loga damrita bhavanti. The eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. Having realized this truth which is behind all this, the power behind the senses and the mind and the body, which is transcendental and immanent, which is infinite and finite at the same time, and which is the supreme truth. Having realized this, a person attains to immortality, amritatva. So, this truth is so simply put by Sri Ramakrishna by saying Sandhya merges into Gayatri, Gayatri again merges into Om. Sandha Gayatri te loy hai, Gayatri abar Onkare loy hai. So we will discuss the Om in greater detail based on Mandukya Upanishad and other Upanishads. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.